What was that? Well, those are all ways to open up seams. So today is all about seam ripping, and I found some really cool new tools that I am super excited to open up and try out. They claim they're amazing, so let's try them out and see if they really are. And don't worry, we are going to try out some traditional methods as well. And at the end, after testing all of these, we are going to see which one actually works best. Is it going to be some new technology, or is it going to be a traditional seam ripper? Follow along and find out. So you probably don't have an electric seam ripper laying around, but I know you have a pair of scissors. So we're going to test opening up a seam with scissors first. To use scissors, I'm going to pull the seam apart just a little bit first, and then I'm going to take the tip of them and just clip the stitches. See if I can pull it a little bit and clip the stitches. And you would just continue this way all the way down the seam. As you can see, this is not a fast method for opening up a seam. Okay, I finished testing the scissors. Scissors work just fine if you have them and you need to use them to open up a seam. I think if I was seam ripping a very delicate fabric, it would not work as well because they are pretty big and chunky. But I think because I was using a stiff denim, it worked okay. Also, if I have a ton of seam ripping to do, this is a really slow way to do it. So if you're looking to be an efficient seam ripper, probably not the way to go. The next thing I'm going to be testing is a utility blade. You also might have this laying around the house in your garage or the junk drawer perhaps. So let's give it a whirl. To use the utility blade, you're gonna hold the seam in both of your hands, and with your pointer finger and your thumb, hold the blade and pull it down the seam. You need to keep your fabric taut, and then you just kind of rub it down the stitches and it pops open. This one also works best with thicker fabric. If you have a really thin, delicate silk, this blade is going to rip the fibers of your fabric. So you want to be really careful with what kind of fabric you're using this method on, but it's definitely faster than the scissors. And that's the utility blade. So the utility blade works pretty good. It works for thick fabric, but not thin fabric. You might damage it, and it's kind of dangerous. But overall, it does work. Speaking of dangerous, next we're moving on to the medical grade scalpel, however you say it. I really have trouble saying this word, and I have no idea why. I think I've said it about 10 different ways today. So these are labeled as a surgical grade scalpel, but if we look at the end of the box and how we bought them on Amazon, they are sold as a surgical seam ripper. So we were buying seam rippers, but they're also being sold as a non-safety scalpel, whatever it is. So let's open this up and give it a try. I'm a little scared. Really hoping I don't cut myself. We've got it out. Ooh, kind of scary. Okay, let's give it a try. Safety first with this one. Always make sure you're pulling away from yourself. So we are going to grab those stitches and pull them. Also want to try it on the side of the serge here. So let's see what happens if we stick it in. Oh yeah, wow, look at that. We get it in there with the serge, that just pops right open. Maybe a little awkward with the curve. Ooh. But it definitely pops open the seam nice and easy because it is so sharp. And that's the scalpel. So that wasn't bad at all. That opened up that seam real quick. It did struggle with getting caught a little bit with the curve at the tip of the scalpel, but overall it ripped through those threads real easy. I didn't have a problem using it. I was a little nervous using it though because I didn't want to hurt my fabric or myself. Overall, it works well, a little awkward and a little dangerous, but it works. Next, we're going to try out the auto retractable seam ripper, which is the shape of the scalpels, yes. But it's ceramic. So I am super intrigued by this one. I think it might be the best one. So let's open it up and give it a try. Definitely like a cat claw. So for this one, you have to hold the green button here up. Otherwise, the blade goes away, which could be helpful for setting it down so you don't hurt anything. So we've got to hold this up, and now we are going to rip our seams. And the blade is sharp, surprisingly. It seems like it should be dull. It looks like just like a little chunk of plastic. Let's try the side of this seam as well. And that's the auto retractable seam ripper. So it turns out I actually don't love this. It's not as sharp as I thought it would be. And the round end actually makes it hard to get into the seam, like under it. And I felt like it wasn't cutting the threads as nicely as all the other methods. So kind of disappointed in this one, but it was fun to use and try out. Also, it was really awkward to use because I had to hold the blade up the whole entire time. If I let go, the blade went away. So I couldn't hold my fabric with both of my hands, which was a bit more difficult. Well, that last one was a little bit of a letdown. Now we're off to the Nifty Electric seam ripper. Let's open this baby up and check her out and get her some power. Okay, let's hack into this box with our paper scissors, of course. Check it out. Ooh, look at that. Let's try out the Nifty Notions Electric Seam Ripper. I love that it's pink too. Can we just say how awesome it is? I love pink. Pink is great. Okay, so the instructions say to pin one side down to a surface. But let's be real, there's no surface at our sewing table. When we're seam ripping, we need to rip something open. We just want to go for it. So let's hold our seam taut and give it a try. Okay, so I've got my seam taut. I'm gonna turn it on. I'm gonna hold the seam with one hand, ooh, and run it down. It's kind of gratifying. It is working. This is not cutting the fabric. I'm not worried about cutting the fabric, and it is popping this right open. So cool. And that is the electric seam ripper. So that was so easy to use. It was really safe and it opened up the seam really well. But I'm curious what happens if we try it on a top stitch. Can it get under the stitch to open it up? So first I'm gonna try it from the top. Seems like you can get it in there, but it's pretty tricky. Now I'm gonna try from the bottom or the side where the seam is. I'm gonna see if we can maneuver it in there. Doesn't seem to be working for me. So that did not work very well on the top stitch trying to remove the pocket. So this tool seems really great if you've got like a traditional seam that's going to open up with two pieces of fabric. It was super safe to use. So if you've got kids sewing, this could be a really great option for a seam ripper for you. Last but not least is the traditional seam ripper. And these come in all different types of shapes and sizes. So on the regular seam with the seam ripper, we just push it through all those layers there and give it a little pull, and it's gonna open up nicely for you. It works good. Now let's see how it works on the top stitch that the electric one couldn't handle. Pops right out. And it works from the side too. So you push it in, we got a little blade in the bottom of the seam ripper, and it pops open those stitches. Look at that. The seam ripper overall works really well. It works for seams, it works for top stitches. My biggest complaint about it is that they go dull really fast, and it's definitely not as sharp as the scalpel. So overall, the seam ripper does a great job. It opens up seams, it gets top stitches, but the biggest downfall is that they go dull super easy, and they're definitely not as sharp as the scalpel. So that's a big downfall, but overall, they work great. Okay, y'all, are you ready for my final rankings? Let's do this. Now I'm gonna start with my least favorite one and work up to my favorite one. My least favorite one is the scissors. Opening the seam with the scissors was slow, and they're just not super versatile, so it's gonna be hard to work with light fabrics and get in on those top stitches and edge stitches. Number 5 is the retractable ceramic blade. I love the idea that it's a ceramic blade, but it was just not great at opening up the seam and getting under the stitches. And it was pretty awkward to use because the blade doesn't stay up. Number 4 is the utility blade. Very sharp, easy to use. Again though, Hard to get in there on those top stitches and edge stitches, but it opened up the seam fairly well. I would also be afraid of hurting myself and the fabric with this though. Number 3 is the electric seam opener. This was fun to use, opened up that seam great, but it would not open up a top stitch, edge stitch like at all. So this is great for plain seams and it was kind of fun to use. Are you ready? What's it going to be? We have 2 left. And coming in at number 2 is the scalpel. Super sharp, works super well, but super dangerous. Also, I could see a problem if you're not super skilled and you're working with a delicate fabric, you could really destroy something with this. So that leaves us with number 1, the traditional seam ripper. Super handy, it's got a little blade in it, it's got a little pokey thing to get under those stitches, it's got a little protection of a red nub there so you can just run that right through the seam. So overall, the seam ripper I think was designed very intelligently because it works very well. That downfall being though, they get dull real fast, so you've got to keep a lot of them around. I hope you guys enjoyed my video today on seam opening tools. It was really fun to try out some new tools. I would love to know what your favorite seam ripping tool is. Leave it down below in the comments. And if you haven't tried one of these, which one do you think you are going to try? And when is the last time you bought a new seam ripper? I bet it is time to change out your old seam ripper. If you enjoyed this video today, make sure you give it a thumbs up and leave a comment down below. And if you're not already a subscriber, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when the new videos come out. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for watching today. And don't forget to add me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all the social media, so that way we can stay connected and creative together. And I would love to see your projects, so make sure you tag me in them so that way I can share them with everyone else and keep us all inspired and creative. And don't forget, I teach sewing classes in my design studio here in Chicago, Illinois. And I also teach them virtually, and we are launching an online sewing school this spring. So keep an eye out for it. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.